Oh well.
All right, we are back with the Washington Commanders. Commanders, man, surprised a lot of people last year. 12-5 in Jaden Daniels' first year. And guess what? They was in the NFC Championship game. Wow. Such a surprise for the Washington Commanders. Good vibes over there. Unless you Terry McLaurin, but we'll talk about that later. But good vibes over there in Washington, man. You see the man up there, Dan Campbell, Jaden Daniels, man. They got this squad back on track. Bet MGM got him at 9.5, eighth ranked strength of schedule. 9.5. We're gonna talk about that 9.5. But before we talk about that 9.5, I want to talk about what went down last year and how did this team get so good virtually out of nowhere? I mean, because Washington was a team that was down in the dumps. Now they are Super Bowl contention as one of the top favorites in the NFC. Pat, Coach Cave, bring me up to speed on what happened last year with the Commanders before we get into turn the page and get into 2025 and what they're going to look like going into this coming up year, man. Talk to me, fellas.
All right, man. One of the main reasons why the Commanders were in the NFC Championship last year, well, yeah, it was because of Jada Daniels. You know, Jada Daniels came over there and gave them a jolt in the arm, man. He gave that DC area what they needed, man, a hero. They needed a hero, and that's what he was. He came out there, he did what he was supposed to do. He didn't make many mistakes. He made plays. He got out the pocket and did things that, normal rookies don't do. And he stayed healthy. A lot of people thought that, if he got hit a lot, he would be out. But no, he stayed healthy for pretty much the whole season. But the thing people are not going to talk about is Dan Quinn. I think Dan Quinn was the general behind what everything happened out there last year. He got that defense playing. They brought in some veterans over there, and that defense was playing. And they just Jaden Daniels, man. That whole city got behind Jaden Daniels, man. And I think that was the difference with the Washington Commanders last year. They got rid of that Dan Snyder or whatever that dude's name was. That ownership, they got out of that ownership and they changed. Magic Johnson over there, Showtime, he's doing his thing over there. So I just think this team is behind Jada Daniels, and that's what culture is built off of, man. So they did a lot last year. But Man Cave, what do you think happened with those guys last year? Why they made it to the NFC Championship game?
Well, just like both of you guys said, man, I think they surprised a lot of people, man. And first thing, Pat, what you said as far as they got rid of the black cloud over their franchise, getting rid of Daniel Snyder when he sold the team. Adam Peters and guys came over, they took over, Josh Harris, and they brought a new culture, brought a new, coaches staff, changed in like a whole, changed staff from top to bottom and stuff like that, clean house and stuff like that. So, hey, Jaden Daniels stepped into a perfect situation, man. Like I said, far too many, we talk about guys who come in and they go to toxic teams, but he came into a fresh team. And, they do what every team does. Their first time, nobody had a book on them. They didn't know what to expect. So they surprised a lot of teams. They surprised the NFL. But this season, like I said, people got the book now. So we'll see if they're going to sneak up on anybody. I don't think they're going to sneak up on people no more. So now you are what we thought you are. We'll see what happens, man. And, hey, I got to give a lot of credit to their offensive line. Their offensive line was very competent and allowed Jaden Daniels to have a balanced attack, to throw the ball, to run the ball. So you got to give a lot of credit to the much maligned Bobby Johnson, who was our former O-line coach who, got criticized, but he went over there. He had a good job over there with Dan Quinn and that staff. And what's the offensive coordinator, the former coach of the Arizona Cardinals. You got to give him a lot of credit too, to take over the offense and to, like I said, everybody was surprised. And I'll give much props to the Washington Commanders last year. Like I said, they shocked me by going to the NFC Championship game against the Philadelphia Eagles. I didn't think they was going to make it that far, but they did. They have a bright young future. But like I said, the book is out now, so we'll see if the Washington Commanders going to surprise anybody this season. They lost some guys last year in the offseason and stuff like that, so we'll see. We'll see if Jaden Daniels and these guys could duplicate what they did last year, man. But, Coach, what you got?
Thanks, Cave. I really appreciate it. When we look at the numbers, the points scored in terms of ranking, they were 5th in terms of scoring points, 7th in total yards. Passing yards was 17th, touchdowns was 9th, pass interceptions was 7th, rush yards was 3rd, so they were tops in the league, and rush touchdowns they were 4th. So they had a potent rushing attack, and we know a lot of that stems from Jaden Daniels. Defensively, overall, they points scored, they were 18th. Total yards, they were 13th. Now, pass yards, they were 3rd. Pass touchdowns, they were 15th, so they're middle of the pack. Interceptions, they were 26th. Now, rushing yards, they were 30th, and rushing touchdowns, they were 18th. So they need to be improved. They need to improve going forward. And again, the player who was the most impactful, Jaden Daniels. I mean, in terms of passing, 331 completions on 480 attempts, 69%. For 3,568 yards, 25 touchdowns, 9 interceptions. But here's the biggest impact, the rush. 148 attempts for 891 yards, 6 touchdowns. So he averaged 6 yards per carry. So you see the impact that he had offensively. So, but here we go. Turn it back over to NYG.
Yeah, they gotta get better with that run defense over there in Washington. The defense was definitely a hindrance to that squad because offensively they was pretty dang on good with Jaden Daniels and company. But let's get into the key losses. Key losses here, of course, losing a couple receivers. Not nothing crazy, but De'Ami Brown was a big part. He did contribute over there. Zacchaeus, as Pat mentioned in the Bears preview, he goes over to Chicago, so they lose a couple guys there. Dante Fowler Jr., edge rusher, going over to the Cowboys. Jeremy Chin to the Raiders. And they lose both kickers. You lose all your kickers for? I should have highlighted that. I'm going to tell you why. Because Washington is one of those teams that they lose games because of their kickers. They'll lose a game because of their kicker. Get out kicked. But the big one here, man, you see him on the screen, Jonathan Allen, man. Coach talked about the run defense. He was one of those staples right there, smack dab in the middle. Long time Washington Redskin commander, whatever you want to call these dudes. Now at the Vikings, I think that is going to be their biggest loss because this list is not as extensive as some of the other teams we've covered. So I think Washington did real good keeping most of their team together. A couple guys here. Who y'all got as one of the key losses for the Commanders?
Yeah, the guy that I got is the only guy that I think that's really a loss for them. That's Jonathan Allen. Jonathan Allen, man, he was a leader on that defense for many, many years. He went through a whole lot with that Commanders team, but he was one of those captains on there. He had to fight his brethren one year, the other defensive tackle that's still there. But him moving on, man, maybe that hurts them as far as the inside pass rush and stopping the run. He could be a major, major loss for them. Does it say that they will, their defense will turn into trash because they lost this guy? No, I think this Commanders defense under the tutelage of Dan Quinn is going to still be very good. But not having Jonathan Allen there, it hurts a little bit, but I think they'll overcome it. But Cave, who do you think is their major loss?
All right, for me, yeah, I would say Jonathan Allen myself, but I'm going to go with Dante Fowler because, like I said, it's pass rushing. And I'm looking at this team. They lost a lot of pass rushing over the years. Dante Fowler, Sweat, Chase Young and stuff like that. So they lost a lot of pass rushing. So their line really it doesn't scare teams, like I said, like in the past when they had Allen and Payne, in that defensive middle and stuff like that. But losing Allen was a big loss. But like I said, the pass rushing is going to hurt the Commanders a lot. So that's another thing with them is like that's gonna even though Dan Quinn is a great defensive coach and defensive coordinator and stuff like that, those are key losses because those are things that he thrives off. So I want to see how they're gonna on defense, how they're going to react this year and how they're gonna play this year, as far as defense. But yeah, Dante Fowler for me is their biggest loss and stuff like that. And another person who was a loss, he's not on this list, I know probably a year ago, was Emmanuel Forbes, the rookie that they picked up in the second-year player, like young player. That's a big loss when you just wasted a draft pick on a cornerback, was a first-round pick. So that's another big loss for them, even though he wasn't on the screen. But Coach, who do you think was a big loss?
And when you think about the losses, I look at that back end. And anytime, now you guys know me, I always talk about the sexy fatties, but you guys cover that masterfully. So I don't need to go there. But when you have the number 3 defense in terms of yards, you got to look at the back end also. Yes, you look at their front side, but now you got to look at the back side. And losing 3 DBs, how are you going to replace that? That's going to be key, going forward, in terms of what do you do when you lose a safety, 2 cornerbacks. These guys know the system. They fit in. They contributed. So now you got to bring new guys in to replace those guys and to contribute. So for me, it's your defensive backfield that, those 3 guys right there. So, but over to you, NYG.
Yeah, I'm with y'all. Like I said, not a lot of losses for the Commanders on or off the field. Let's see who they brought in. Just gonna prepare you guys. They did so much in the offseason. I think they had $100 million or something to spend or whatever. They added so much. It's in 2 slides. I ain't gonna hold you. It's in 2 slides. This is the offense. Offensively, I'm looking at Deebo Samuel, who they acquired in the trade with the 49ers. Laramie Tunsil, who they acquired in a trade with the Texans. They signed Nate Herbig, so they added to their offensive line, re-signed Trent Scott, re-signed both of their tight ends, John Bates and Zach Ertz. Defensively, let's make sure we cover our bases here, folks. Von Miller, one of the more recent signings. Javon Kinlaw, he signed a big deal over there, bringing in D tackles out the Wahoo, Jalen Holmes, Eddie Goldman, Sheldon Day. Re-signed Bobby Wagner. Will Harris, they got them a kicker now, Matt Gay. They just went ape shit in free agency. Ape shit in free agency. I got Von Miller. Right here. And I got Deebo Samuel. I got 2 for the Commanders because this is a team, you see what they lost or didn't lose. And then they do this. This is why a lot of people are high on the Commanders. Now, these guys got to go out there and they got to play on the football field. And they do have a lot of veterans. And with veterans comes things like injuries, contract negotiations, whatever the case. But I got Deebo Samuel. I got Von Miller. I can click back and forth on the slide for you guys if you want to see the list because I just couldn't put it all on one page, man. It was a lot. It was a lot. But who do y'all got as a key addition for the Commanders, man? Talk to me.
Yo, I got Mr. Laramie Tunsil, the guy that they acquired at the tackle position to protect Jaden Daniels' blind side. You don't want to get Jaden Daniels to get hit from the blind side. Too little to be taking those big hits like that. And so they said, hey, Our offensive line caused Jaden Daniels have to be a superhero at times. Let's get some people out there to block for him so he could be back there and wheel and deal and become even more dangerous. So Laremy Tunsil, may have fell out of favor with the Texans. I don't know. Maybe they thought that he was washed, but if he could come over there and perform at that Pro Bowl level that he usually does, it's going to be a huge get for the Washington Commanders because their offensive line is going to be key to getting that running game going and to allow Jaden Daniels do what he do on that field. So Laremy Tunsil's my guy. Cave, who's your guy, man?
Hey, Pat, I'm going to have to agree with you. That's who I was going to go with. Laremy Tunsil, man. Like I said, one of the best left tackles in football next to Trent Williams and Andrew Thomas when healthy and stuff like that. Laremy Tunsil has been one of the stalwarts in the league for some years, one of the top, offensive linemen, tackle. So that's who I'm going with, Laremy Tunsil. And I'm also going to go with Bobby Wagner, another key addition signing. They signed him back. And like I said, he was very integral for them last year. Veteran leadership that brings that veteran mentality. And like I said, got the defense together. He's the defensive captain and he is back again with them because like I said, if he's not there, it's not the same Commanders team on defense. You need that veteran leadership, somebody who can make plays and get those guys rally and stuff like that. So those are my key. Laremy Tunsil and Bobby Wagner are two key additions for the Commanders. So I'll turn it over to you, Coach, and see who's your key additions.
Okay, very appreciate you. Gonna go with another sexy fatty, but on the other side of the ball, Javon Kinlaw. There's his career stats, but Kinlaw has tremendous size and a long wingspan with big hands. Now, he works hard in the trenches, and one of the things that I like the most is that he counters when he's stopped with a second move, where most defensive linemen just gets stuck in the mud in a sense. He works to a second move. Now, he'll always hustle no matter what when he's pursuing. His big move is the bull rush, just like most of the defensive linemen. But he has a good ability to collapse the pocket with this move. But he counters off this bull rush and converts a leverage advantage into a clean pressure. So, and what does that mean? Again, if they stop him from bull rushing, he comes back with another move, whether it's a rip move, whether it's a spin move, anything of that nature to get the offensive lineman off balance and then be able to push him right into the quarterback. So that's my impact player. That's my addition for the Washington Commanders. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, NYG.
All right. Like I said, man, Adam Peters over there doing work. He working off season like crazy, man. Look at this draft, man. Josh Connery Jr., tackle, Oregon. We talked about protecting a young quarterback. What did they do? They went out there and they got them some offensive linemen. They got first round pick offensive lineman, Josh Connery Jr. out of Oregon, Trey Amos, cornerback out of Mississippi. I think the kid's gonna be a stud in the NFL. We talked to him at the Senior Bowl. I think he's gonna be good. That's just my personal opinion. I like his attitude. I like what I seen out there at the Senior Bowl. Jalen Lane, another Senior Bowl player we talked to, wide receiver out of Virginia Tech. Yeah, speed. He's gonna give you that, man. Cat slot receiver. So I see how they working over there. I do see how the Commanders are working. Man, these other teams got some work to do, man. Giants, Cowboys, because these first two teams looking crazy right now. But who y'all got as your top draft pick? Again, man, my man Trey Amos, man. That's what I'm rolling with. Who y'all got?
Yeah, we did the interview with Trey Amos, and we talked to this guy here, Jalen Lane, man. I think he's going to be an absolute force with this Commanders team because I think he meshes with Jaden Daniels well. Reason why I say that slot receiver that he needs, losing Zacchaeus I think he fills that role immediately, and I think he's that type of player to where when Jaden Daniels breaks that pocket, he knows how to make himself available, and that is very dangerous with the speed that he has going into this NFC East, man. You're gonna need those guys. Debo Samuel, maybe he's not the same guy that he was, but if this guy has to come in and fill in at the slot, I think Jaden Lane is the perfect guy for them, man. And I think he's gonna make his name known with the Commanders this season with Jaden Daniels. I think that's a perfect matchup for him. But Cave, who you got, brother?
Yeah, Pat, once again, man. Hey, I was going to go with Trey Amos, the cornerback. Like Coach said, they lost a lot of DBs and stuff like that. Trey Amos is a big gift for them, but I'm going to go with Jalen Lane as well because of the Terry McLaurin situation right now with the Commanders. Don't know how that's going to turn out. And looking at this guy film, like I said, I've seen him in college with Virginia Tech, got the speed and stuff like that. Jaden Daniels needs more weapons and stuff like that because, like I said, Jahan Dotson didn't pan out. He's gone. So, hey, Terry McLaurin is the only one there right now, is the big playmaker, but he's not in camp right now because of the contract thing. So Jalen Lane's going to be the man right now. He could take over and, be that man right now because that's who else they going to turn to. So that's what I'm going to go with Jalen Lane right now as my, for the draft for who they get. So, Coach, who do you got?
Great job, fellas. I'm going to make it a sweep to a certain extent. Yes, I will say Lane, but because you guys covered it, all three of you guys, I'm actually going to go with Connolly, the offensive lineman. All right? Because, again, you have to protect your star quarterback. And being able to have Connolly up there coming from Oregon, great size, great athleticism, great ability in the trenches, versatility. He's the type of offensive lineman that will match up well with Daniels going forward, not just for this year, but for years to come. Now, when you think about that, that's a problem when you get an offensive lineman like that, where he can match any defensive lineman in terms of speed, as terms of athleticism, and as you see right here, getting out there in the screen and get moving downfield. Plays with a good base. I mean, has a nasty disposition. So he's the one that you need, especially when the other offensive linemen, the veteran offensive linemen, move on. He's going to be there for years to come, especially with Daniel. So that's who I'm going to highlight right now as far as the draft pick. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to you, NYG.
Yeah. Again, it's been a good off season for the Commanders. Let's take a look at the roster. Let's see how they put it all together. And what I'm especially paying attention to is what Coach always talks about, those sexy fatties, those offensive linemen, because to me, when you have a quarterback like Jaden Daniels, and you're predicated on running the football primarily, to move, to go, to get in between, up and down the field or whatever. I'm looking at the offensive line. I'm definitely looking at the offensive line, and it looks pretty good. I must say, it looks pretty good, especially if Josh Connery Jr. pans out and can take that right tackle spot. I mean, you got Tunsil, you got Brandon Coleman, you got Tyler Badass, who you stole from Dallas, and then Sam Cosmi. Now, it's not rock 'em, knock 'em, sock 'em, but you got Jaden Daniels who can take off at any moment. Defensive wise, that's where it gets interesting. They brought in pieces, but it's a very heavily veteran-laden team. And again, when you have a veteran team, that can work in your favor and it can work against you as well too, because players can get banged up and you can be a mass unit out there. But y'all know how we do. Y'all know how we do. We got the crew in here, man. We about to break down this Commanders squad. Pat on the defense, Cave on the offense, and we got the coach, breaking down these coaches, and I just want to see what's the outlook for the Commanders. Take it away, fellas.
All right. For the offensive side, man, I'm looking at the Commanders. Of course, you're going to have to start with Jaden Daniels at the quarterback position, Brian Robinson Jr., a great running back for the Commanders. Then you got Terry McLaurin, like I said, is holding out right now, but who knows? He may get a contract or he may get traded. So that's going to be a big question mark for the wide receiver position. And then you got the addition of Deebo Samuels. You got Noah Brown. Now, Deebo Samuel, like I said, I mean, it was a great pickup for Washington. I know some people said that was a great trade, I guess. What again, for a 4th or 5th round pick? But like I said, my friend was a 49ers fan. He said Deebo, you know what I'm saying, he has separation issues. But we'll see. Like I said, it might work out in Washington for the Commanders. So that offense, like I said, looking at that offense, they need some more weapons on that offense. Because the only name right there is like Terry McLaurin right now, Deebo, Noah Brown, Zach Ertz, old reliable Zach Ertz at the tight end position, who you can always count on. And the offensive line, Laramie Tunsil and Connolly in the draft was huge for the Commanders. The bookend tackles that they feel could replace those guys. They could be on the outside for a while with Connolly and Laramie Tunsil. And you look at the interior with Tyler Baez, Cosme, and then Brandon Coleman. Hey, they're going to come back with the same line. A better line than last year. So, hey, I look for them to do the same thing. But like I said, this is year 2. And everybody done caught up and, they got the playbook on them. So we'll see how they operate this season, man. So, that's a good thing about football. You can fool me once, but, it's going to be hard to fool me twice. So we'll see how Washington offense, and if Kingsbury could come up, be more dynamic with the offense, then hey, but he's going to need more playmakers. And Terry McLaurin will be a big, if he can come back and stay, he's a big get for those guys, man. But they're going to need McLaurin, because if they don't have him, then they're going to have to turn to Deebo Samuels, Noah Brown, and then the rookie Jalen Lanes, and also Zach Ertz. So that might be their Achilles heel this season on the offensive side. So Jaden Daniels may have to do a lot more than he did the year before to mask some of those problems and issues if Terry McLaurin is not there. But I'm going to turn it over to Pat on the defensive side and see what he sees on that side of the ball.
All right, defense, man. Let's talk about this Commanders defense, man. Listen, got Dorrance Armstrong, who I think is very underrated. I think that guy is a very good player in Dorrance Armstrong. Still got one of the Wonder Twins at the defensive tackle position, Deron Payne. Brought over Ken Law, Von Miller. Yo, I think that front four is pretty doggone good, man. You got veterans and a younger guy, Ken Law, in there. Then you got Frankie Louisville and Bobby Wagner. They're going to do their thing again. Same people that they had last year. Then you got Jonathan Jones. Will Harris. We'll see what he is when he gets out there. Quan Martin. Don't know who that really is, but he's going to have to, pick up the slack at the free safety position. He's going to have to go sideline to sideline. Then you got old man Marshawn Lattimore. Does he still have it out there? And Mike Sarenstiel from Michigan. He did pretty well last year. Now that secondary is a little meh. If they don't get some pressure, they can get, they can get hit down the field deep. Trey Amos, until he's ready to come in there and start. Yeah, they got a little secondary issue, man. I'm glad we do these reviews, man, these previews, because that secondary is scaring me a little bit. But that front seven is decent. But like Man Cave said, it might be a little bit more pressure on Jaden Daniels to repeat what they did last year. But this defense, if I had to give it a grade, I'll give it a C+ to a B, because of who Dan Quinn is. He can get those guys in position to do what they need to do. But coach, what about the coaching, brother?
Pat, thanks a lot, man. You said it, man. When it comes to the coaching, you have Dan Quinn, an elite, efficient mind when it comes to the defensive side of the football. He's also a good head coach. He knows how to manage the game very well. It being experienced running Dallas's defense, but don't forget he was out there with Seattle too, so he knows how to run a defense, and he knows how to lead men. Now we want to talk about coordinators. Cliff Kingsbury. You think about that, former Arizona offensive head coach, high-tech offensive coordinator in college. One of the things in reading what he did last year, which really impressed me, have it highlighted. The team converted 87% of its fourth down conversions, which was best in the NFL. That is a backbreaker for defenses, because if you don't stop them, they get a new set of downs and go over and keep the drives going. So this is what he does. He takes advantage of putting his offensive players in positions to capitalize and take advantage of the opposition on the defensive side of the ball. Now, we may have concerns a little bit about some of their skills, but Kingsbury is going to do a great job of getting these guys in the right positions to take advantage of what they need to do. And listen, guys, say what you want about him as a head coach. He's an elite, efficient mind offensively. So you partner that up with Quinn, and you have two elite minds leading the Washington Commanders. And Joe Witt, the young ascending defensive coordinator, second season with Washington. So he's already vested being there in the organization, but he also knows defense. And plus, he's learning from one of the elite minds, so that's only going to help him get better. But what he brings to the table will also help them going forward. And Pat, you said the concern is on the back end. But I always see and have learned from Quinn that he knows how to take care of that. Because when you thought about the Legion of Boom in the beginning, you didn't think you were going to see the talent that you eventually did. So he'll bring the talent out of these guys eventually, or he'll get the right guys in there to do the job. With that being said, I'm going to turn it back over to you guys.
Yeah, I must say, I think Pat's on to something. When I look a little closer at this defense, it doesn't scare me. Let's put it like that. Offensively, with Jaden Daniels in there and the way they could run the football, yeah, but defensively, leaves a little bit to be desired. Let's see if they can get to these 9.5. Over under for Washington at 9.5. I think it said they got the 8th ranked schedule. Open up. It's the New York Giants. Whoopee. You get them at home too. Then you go to Green Bay, Vegas, Atlanta, Chargers, Chicago, Dallas. It's not looking bad to start the season for the Commanders. Then it get a little bit tougher at Kansas City, Seattle, Detroit, Miami, bye week, Denver, Minnesota, Giants, Philly twice, and Dallas again. Back end gonna be rough. That's why I said injuries, especially on the defensive end, is something that can derail this team. But 9.5. What we doing, fellas? Over or under? This one, I'm waffling on this one a little bit, y'all. I don't know if this team can win 10 games. I don't know. I don't know.
Looking at this schedule, man. If they mess up and lose to us the first week, you got Green Bay right after that. Then you got the Raiders. The Falcons are no pushover. I think the Chargers have a team that could really combat against them. Because the Chargers get that run game going against them, it's going to be a problem. And I think that's what the Chargers this season, period. If their run game is going, they're going to be a hard team to beat. The Bears, they had you dead to rights last year. It went for a Hail Mary play that beat them. And I don't think you have the same caliber squad that you did last year. It's going to be more on Jaden Daniels. Dallas, they always seem to lose one against Dallas. Kansas City is Kansas City. Then you got Detroit, Philly twice, Minnesota, and Denver get in there, and it's 8.5 or 9.5.
9.5.
Mm-hmm.
9.5. So they gotta win 10.
I'm gonna give them the over at 10 wins just because of who Jaden Daniels is. I really think that kid is going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the league for a long time. And if Jada Daniels he makes those splash plays that he does, they can beat the Chargers, they can beat the Packers. I'll give them 10 wins, but I wouldn't be surprised if they hit the under. I wouldn't. But I'm gonna go over just because of who Jada Daniels is. What you guys got, Cave, Coach?
I think I'm gonna go the opposite. I'm gonna go under. I'm gonna go right at 9 wins. And I think it's because of that offense. Like I said, the book is, people got the book now. And Jaden Daniels is an extraordinary player. But if McLaurin thing holds up and then he doesn't play or whatever, I don't know what happens. But, yeah, I just can't see it, man. They're a good team. Don't get me wrong. They're a good team. But like I said, they're beatable. So it's not like, it's a given. So I'll go at 9 wins. I think they get by 9 wins.
What you got, Coach? Talk to him.
Sitting here looking at the schedule. You know what? That MGM knows what the hell they're doing, man.
Yes, they do.
Man, do they know? Because that 9.5 is just right. Because they can go 9 or they can go 10 wins.
Mm-hmm.
And in going down the line and looking at it, to me, to get to 10 wins, actually starts with Green Bay. I really think it starts with Green Bay. It's a primetime game. It's in Green Bay Thursday night. It's going to be a short week coming off of that New York game, a division game at that. So it's going to be hard pressed. I'm going to have to take the under and go with 9 wins for them.
Yeah, I think I'm with the 9. I think I'm with the 9. I think I'm with the under. I think this is the team that is primed to take just a little bit of a step back. You got to think they won 12 games last year. They was in the NFC Championship game. It's the road games that's gonna get them at Green Bay. Remember, you talked about Atlanta. They can be either or. If you don't have a good defense, Atlanta can score on you. Dallas, the same thing. They can score on you. Kansas City can score on you. Minnesota can damn sure score on you, and so can Philadelphia. So that to me, it's them road games. It's them road games. If they drag a defense in there that's either banged up or underperforming, it's going to be hell for Jaden Daniels to keep up with some of those offenses, So I'm taking an under here. I still think they're going to be a good team. I just don't think they're going to be as good as last year. It's hard to repeat that. 1 year, they might have been on that 1 year wonder type hype stuff, but we'll see. We will see. But that being said, y'all, it is time to move on, and we gotta take a little trip down south to see the Dallas Cowboys and see what they've been up to. I don't want to do it, but they part of the division, and we just gonna have to go and suck it up and talk about the Cowboys for a little bit. So we're gonna do that, and we'll be right back. I hit that like.